This is Scarehunter, and you are listening to Scarehunter Storytime. Many short, scary stories to chill your bones. Today's story is called Dr. Needles. So turn off the lights, get cozy by the fire, and get ready for some scares. I woke up early one morning and decided to turn on the TV. As I flipped through the channels, I stopped at one that had a special news report. I listened to the reporter talk about car crashes and other things. Then another reporter came on and said something that really got my attention. The dreaded serial killer, Dr. Needles, is now leaving for his execution by the electric chair. As you can see, many victims' families have come to see the event. I turned the TV off after that. I didn't want to hear what he had done. I was there. I saw what happened. It happened 15 years ago, but even with the therapy I've had, I can still remember the whole horror like it was yesterday. I was heading home after a long day at work, and while I was walking to the bus stop, I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my neck. And as I passed out, a man came up to me and said, "Looks like you need to see a doctor." When I finally woke up, I tried to sit up and I realized I was strapped to a gurney. As I looked around to get my bearings and figure out where I was, the lights turned on and I was blinded. Once my eyes adjusted, I heard a man giggling as he came into the room. I continued to look around, and I saw that there were other people who were also strapped to gurneys. The man who came in was dressed like a doctor, but he had syringes all over his face and body. He also kept syringes held in his hair. As he looked at me and the other victims, he giggled and said, "Welcome, patients. My name is Dr. Needles. All right. Who's ready for their appointment?" Then he grabbed a gurney and put the victim in the middle of the room so we'd be forced to watch him do whatever he wanted to the victim. He walked up to the woman, and as she was struggling, Dr. Needles said, "I can tell you haven't been eating the right kind of foods, but we can fix that." Dr. Needles giggled as he brought out what looked like an old-fashioned stomach pump. As he was testing the pump, he looked at the woman and said, "We doctors have an old saying. What goes down must come up." When he stopped the pump, he shoved the tube down the woman's throat and turned on the machine. While the pump was running and emptying the contents of the woman's stomach, he said, I know. It sucks." Then he pushed a button and the pump sounded like a blender and cut out the woman's insides. When he turned the machine off, the woman was dead. We all cried and screamed and struggled to get free. And the doctor giggled and said, "I guess her illness was terminal." When he stopped giggling, he pulled a loaded syringe out of his messy hair and said, "Who else is ready for their appointment?" As he grabbed another gurney, the man strapped to it struggled to get free and screamed, "No! No! The doctor gave him a shot and knocked him out. When the man woke up, Dr. Needles walked up to him and said, "My friend, you are not well. These things happen when you neglect your regular checkups. Fortunately, a good physician always has the right instrument for the job." Now, this won't hurt a bit. He took out a large instrument and shoved it up the man's nose. We all heard the cracking sound and knew that the instrument went straight into his skull. While we were screaming and continued to struggle, Dr. Needles looked up the man's nose and said, I think I found the problem. He took both dead bodies out of the room to get rid of them. While he was gone, I was able to loosen my straps and get myself free. Then I went to unstrap the other victims. Once I got the victims free, we all ran off. As we looked around to find a way out, I said, "We're in an abandoned hospital. How appropriate. Now, Dr. Needles is still out there, so we all need to be as quiet as possible." We were almost out when Dr. Needles came out of a hospital room and saw us. We all ran for our lives. As we ran, he yelled, "I haven't discharged you!" Everyone managed to get out of the building. I decided to hide and catch Dr. Needles for the police. I got some traps set up for Dr. Needles to come after me. When we got to the first trap, I hid as I said, "Come get me, you walking pincushion." Dr. Needles was looking for me in the morgue, and while he was looking, he opened one of the corpse doors, and a spring-loaded autopsy table hit him. As Dr. Needles tried to catch his breath, I came out and said, "Don't you know it's rude to barge in on people while they're sleeping?" Then I ran off. I ran into an operating room and set up some traps. Dr. Needles broke down the door, and as he looked around, he said, "I don't have any surgeries scheduled for today, but I think I can squeeze you in." As he looked around some more, he tripped, and tons of surgical tools fell on him. Before I left, I said, "Doctors really should be careful where they leave their tools. People could really get hurt." Well, gotta run. Once I got away, I went to find another way out. I finally found a way out and was about to leave when I saw the doctor covered in cuts and bruises walking towards me. He suddenly stopped and said, "Is it my bedside manner?" Then he passed out. After I tied him up, I ran to find a working phone. As I checked my pockets for change, I found my cell phone and I called the police. While I waited, I grabbed some syringes from his hair. If he woke up, I would give him a shot and knock him out again. When the police came, they took Dr. Needles and I to the police station. As I was telling them what happened, they told me about other murders he had committed and that they had been looking for him for years. After I finished my story, they called my parents to come get me. Now that Dr. Needles is going to fry, I figured the nightmare was over. At least, that's what I thought, until I went for a walk and found a syringe, along with the sound of rustling in the bushes, along with the sound of giggling. Well, hope you enjoyed that little story. Unpleasant dreams.